And this is crazy. What he's saying, and it's I disagree with the tactics and the policy. The tactics have been again brutal. I think that Dean Cain wants to turn the country into something that looks more like an authoritarian country. We have negative people coming in, people going out. We have people in masks.
Tim Miller of the Bulwark went on Piers Morgan show, Piers Morgan Uncensored, to go up against MAGA goof and former TV Superman Dean Cain. Dean Cain has announced that he is going to join ICE. Imagine seeing what ICE is doing and thinking, yeah, I'd like to do that. That looks like something I'd like to be a part of. But apparently that's what Dean Cain thinks. We're going to take a look at clips from Tim Miller's show on the Bulwark. We're also going to see clips from Tim Miller going against Dean Cain on Piers Morgan's show. I'm going to share my thoughts on this as well. Let's get into it together.
Hey guys, Tim Miller from the Bulwark here. I just got finished debating Dean Cain on the Piers Morgan show. Yeah, that's a real sentence. We're in a strange world. And I wanted to show you some of the clips from it. Look, I mean, for starters, when you get to a chance to debate a former Superman, somebody whose character was premised on protecting the vulnerable, and who decided in their real life to become kind of a cosplay, jackbooted thug, you got to take the chance, you know? You got to take that opportunity. Somebody emails me up. Are there any other Hollywood stars out there that want to debate me? I'll be a debate me bro for Hollywood stars. I'm happy to do that. So I want to do it for that reason, and also just because this is an issue that I really care about. And my goal in the conversation was really just to continue to drive home the point that it is dangerous to have untrained people getting recruited into doing very sensitive immigration work. The individuals that are on the receiving end of ICE are humans, for starters. In many cases, they're actually not here illegally. ICE has hassled people that were literally American citizens, but also there are people that, had, visa issues, people that were here on temporary protected status got kicked out. I find this is complicated, right? It's not just they're at a Home Depot, so they must be an illegal, right? There are layers to this. We've seen a lot of mistakes from ICE already. And in a country that was serious about both protecting its borders, but also protecting rights, in a country that cares about freedom, you would want immigration officials in particular to be highly skilled, highly well-trained, understanding the law, understanding what the limits are of their power, understanding the rights of the migrants, and Dean Cain just doesn't. And a lot of people that he's going to go work for don't care about it. And that is the scary thing. That's the bad thing. And I think that's the thing that hopefully, even some people, even Piers, it seems like, and some people that watch the Piers Morgan show that consume MAGA media are like, look, this is too far. We are part of the small government side of MAGA. There's also a fascist side of MAGA, but we're part of the small government side of MAGA. We don't want federal government overreach. We don't want people's rights trampled on. We're Gadsden flag people. We're don't tread on me people. And hopefully it resonates with them. Also, one other thing. I want to try to get into the ether. It's not a good thing for our country to have zero immigration, to have negative net migration. That's not good. The countries where that happen are some of the worst countries in the world, because people don't want to go there, because their regimes are authoritarian, because there's limited freedom, there's limited opportunity. So even if you're going to praise Trump for what he did on the border, and obviously, clearly there's been less illegal immigration and more control of the border, there's something to be said for that. But the other part of that is, okay, well, we also still want to be a welcoming country. We also still want to be a dynamic and growing country. We want to be a country where people can come and have opportunity. That's a good country, right? A bad country is a country that has closed borders. Nobody's trying to get in and everybody's trying to get out. That's where Trump's taking us. That's what the stats say.
First of all, in terms of Trump's overall policy on immigration, do you applaud the success he's had in pretty much shutting down the southern border? And do you agree that any undocumented Americans who commit crimes in the United States should be deported? I mean, on those 2 points first, are you broadly in agreement with what they've done?
Sure. Good to be back, Piers. I knew you were going to ask this question because I got it the last time I was here. So I have a little bit of follow-up for you. Look, I think that obviously the border was too open under past administrations, and we need to have control over who's coming into the country and who's not. There was some progress on that actually in the last year of the Biden administration. Donald Trump, as administration, has advanced that further. I think having control of the border is something that makes sense. Deporting people that have committed other crimes, not just, we can discuss what we mean by crimes, but deporting people that have deported violent crimes, rather, as opposed to immigration crimes. Of course, we should deport people that have committed violent crimes. Here's the problem, though, which is why I just can't give him full credit. You don't actually want to be a country that nobody wants to come to, because that's where we're at now, where there is 0 border crossings, and that is actually not a good thing. I wanted to pull up here the list of the countries with negative net migration. That could be us this year. We're going to have negative net migration, more people fleeing America than coming. Some of the other countries that have that: Syria, Venezuela, Ukraine in the middle of being invaded, Pakistan, Sudan, China. That's not what we want. A growing country wants people to want to come here. We want people to want to fleeing communist countries to come to America. We're going to have negative population growth for the first time in this country. Other countries that have that: Russia, Cuba, Bulgaria. I don't aspire for America to be like Syria and China and Russia, where people don't want to go into their countries. We don't want to have a country that's fully locked down. And I disagree with Donald Trump's immigration policy across that board, because that's what's happening in this country. People are no longer coming here. It's not just the violent criminals that are being kept out. People that want to come, work hard, contribute to this country. That is what America has been founded on. That is, they pay lip service to that. They say we support legal immigration, but they're not allowing people into the country. We're going to have more people leaving America than coming for the first time in a while this year.
And you broke the law when you came here. It's the same as in any other country. You've got to find a way to legalize yourself or self-deport, or else ICE will come and they will deport you.
Okay, Tim Miller, your response to that?
And this is crazy, what he's saying, and I disagree with the tactics and the policy. The tactics have been, again, brutal. I think that Dean Cain wants to turn the country into something that looks more like an authoritarian country. We have negative people coming in, people going out. We have people in masks. Look, Dean was on Fox the other night, and Jesse Waters asked him, "Will you hop out of ICE vans and start apprehending guys?" And Dean said he'd be willing to do that. This is crazy. This is not a TV show. Like, this is real life. The idea that somebody who is not trained would join ICE and join these guys that are putting on masks and jumping out of U-Hauls at a Home Depot and nabbing people, it's a horrible policy. It is un-American. It is not how we should treat people. It does not show a respect for individual rights in a free country. And the policy itself of deporting these people, of deporting everybody that is here undocumented, is a crazy policy. It would crush the economy. Donald Trump's even backtracking on this policy because his friends in the ag industry have called him and said you can't deport our ag workers. And then on top of that, not only is the policy bad, and not only tactics un-American of these masked thugs jumping out and grabbing people, but ICE is screwing up over and over again. They don't need more agents. They certainly don't need more untrained actors as agents. Right here in Louisiana, I'll just give you two. Madonna Kashanian, she's a 64-year-old Iranian grandmother. She came here as a student. She did everything that Dean said. She was trying to get asylum. The U.S. kept kicking the can on that. She kept going to appointments. She's gardening outside her home, and she gets picked up by ICE. She was in detention for a week. Jose Francisco Garcia Rodriguez, 73-year-old grandfather. He emigrated on a U.S. boat from Cuba and tried to get asylum. Had a paperwork mistake. Arrested by ICE, held for a week. George Redis in California, 25 years old, worked as a security guard, U.S. citizen. ICE grabbed him, held him for 3 days. And this, we can argue about this. This doesn't even get into the Venezuelans that we sent to CCOT, many of whom didn't come to the country illegally. They came legally. They sought asylum. They came across the border. And rather than sending them back to Venezuela, ICE and Kristi Noem sent them to a torture prison in a third country that they weren't even from.
And Tim Miller's spot on with what he's saying here. And not just immigrants not coming to the country and leading to a situation where we actually have more people leaving the country than coming into the country, as Tim Miller said. We don't even have people wanting to come here on vacation. Tourism, foreign tourism is way down. I mean, I don't know who would want to come here on a trip or a vacation for fear that they might get thrown into some kind of a gulag. But what ICE is doing in these examples that Tim Miller is giving is they're just trying to show this is what authoritarian regimes do. They're just trying to show, look how tough we are. Look how badass we are. And you get a goof like Dean Cain to go and do ride-alongs with these guys. He will be an ICE agent in the same way that Dr. Phil is an ICE agent. He's not going to be actually doing any of the work. They're just going to have him there to have a quote-unquote celebrity to try to legitimize some of this. Of course, it's only going to legitimize it to people who already think this is a good thing. There's no people who are on the fence or against what ICE is doing who are going to say, oh, well, if Dean Cain, former TV Superman decades ago, is in favor of it, then I'm going to be in favor of it.
So, ICE does not need more untrained agents right now. ICE needs to learn how to follow the law and treat and treat people who have not committed crimes with respect and with the rights that earned.
Okay, but Tim, it remains the case. Hang on, Dean. I'll come to you. The thing I would say, Tim, to that, as I said in the intro, it remains a fact that the level of deportation so far in this Trump term are about half of what they were in the Obama and Biden administrations.
You alluded to it. That's because this is kind of one of these things that's, statistics like lies, damn lies and statistics. Part of the reason for that was, as you said, the border was open. We can critique it, probably too open during the Biden-Obama administrations. When they're counting the deportations, that's people that come to the border, come across the border, get sent right back across. So it's easy to run the numbers up when you're doing that. The border right now is shut down, as you guys mentioned. So what they're now doing is going to get people from inside the interior of the country. That's much more challenging. And so they're spending all this money to get new ICE agents. People who are former actors, apparently, are going to come in and start helping with this. And the problem when you go into the interior of the country to start finding people is if you're just trying to get a quota, Stephen Miller set quota, you're going to end up nabbing people like George Redis, who is actually a citizen, or like Jimena Arias Cristobal, who was pulled over incorrectly, that they got the wrong car, and you're going to screw up. But I would just point out, Piers, that a lot of the people who are being deported, again, didn't come over illegally. We're not talking about people that crossed the Rio Grande. We're talking about either children, DACA kids that got brought here by their parents. We're talking about people that overstayed visas. Donald Trump and J.D. Vance have made a bunch of people illegal that weren't, because they came through asylum. Either Joe Biden or George Bush or Obama or even Trump actually himself in the first term gave people from a lot of countries, Venezuela, Cuba, et cetera, asylum, temporary protected status, Haiti. This was a big thing during the campaign. And so now they've taken away their status and they're like, self-deport or we'll deport you. So these people didn't come illegally. Like, they came through a legal process, and now we've got ICE agents and apparently former Superman actors are going to jump out of vans and nab them and hold them in deportation cells. That's insane. Like, that's not how you act in a free country. So no, I do think in a lot of these cases it is different. Like, a lot of these situations are complicated.
All right.
And they've tried to come legally.
They are. There is no doubt it is complicated. Dean, over to you.
Tim, I don't understand why you have to go, a former untrained actor. I'm not untrained. I've been a sheriff's deputy for almost 10 years. I've been a sworn sheriff's deputy and a reserve police officer. So I don't know why you're saying untrained. And by the way, when you join ICE, they train you. So to say that and try to denigrate because I'm an actor, I shouldn't be able to be concerned about what's going on with our borders or with our law enforcement agencies is denigrating. It's ridiculous. Should I say because you're a former Republican strategist, you have no say on anything? That's baloney.
There's a difference, Dean Cain, in having a say on something and going and becoming an agent of the government. And Dean Cain is almost 60 years old. Next July, he will be 60. He's 59 years old right now. How effective is he really going to be out in the field as an ICE agent compared to somebody who's half his age?
Joke, just like John Oliver or Bill Maher or anybody else. Let me finish my sentence. Let me finish my sentence. Let me finish my sentence, please. Let me finish my sentence, please. Denigrating somebody because they're doing this because of what they used to do or what they do, or whether they're an actor or a writer or a newscaster, is ridiculous. It's an ad hominem attack. It's wrong. And there's been over 100,000 people who have put in applications for ICE. So clearly there is a desire for people to step up and serve this country.
Dean, if you show up at someone's, you said on Fox that you'd be that you would, if they sent you in, you'd be happy to jump out of a truck and go apprehend people. So if you show up at the door of someone's home as an ICE agent, which you're an ICE agent now, do you know what rights they have? I'm
not an ICE agent yet.
Oh, okay. So yeah, so you are an untrained former actor. You are an untrained former actor.
Former actor. I'm a former professional football player too. So when I run down my resume, I mean, so it's stupid.
I'm just telling a fact. You're untrained.
You denigrate it as though it's something negative. You denigrate it like it's something negative. Like you know what you're saying. So quit trying to gloss over it. It's ridiculous. It was snarky and it was stupid.
I'm telling you why it's negative. You don't know the job. You don't know the job. That's why it's negative. It's nothing.
You don't know that I don't know the job. You're just assuming. You didn't. Did you know I was a law enforcement officer?
I just asked you. Do you know what migrants' rights are? If you show up to someone's house as an ICE agent, do you know what rights they have? Do you know?
Have all the due process rights of anybody in this country.
Okay. So do you need a warrant signed by a judge to apprehend somebody?
This is ridiculous. I'm not a sworn ICE agent yet.
Well, you were saying you were happy to jump out of vans and start apprehending people. You were bragging about that.
I will. And then you made it, of course. And I would if that's what the director asked me to do.
I've got to say,
stupid argument.
Hang on. I've got to say, of all the arguments to use against Dean Cain, I do find the kind of constant sneering that he was Superman and an actor. I do think that's irrelevant, actually. He's perfectly entitled, as an American citizen, to train up to be an ICE agent should he want to. And as he's made repeatedly clear, Tim, he'll only start being an ICE agent when he's completed that training. So I don't think the fact he's been an actor or footballer or Superman or anything else makes any difference. The fact he's been, as he said, a sheriff and other things in terms of law enforcement actually makes him more qualified than most citizens to train to be an ICE agent. And if he wants to be, then what's the problem? Why should we use his background as a stick to beat him with?
I can answer that, Piers. Are you not concerned that ICE has decided that they're just going to go on this recruitment campaign and start leveling up the amount of agents that are going to be masked? Going into Hispanic communities?
Well, no, I think
all that just shows me. Is that not
hang on.
We want trained people. We want trained people. This is very hard. This is hard work, and we got to respect people's rights. And ICE is not doing that.
But nobody
and just leveling up really quick.
All right, but two things.
People is not great. It's not going to help. That's a real concern. That's a legit concern that people who are not trained are going to be doing these jobs.
Sure. Two things I would say by way of response. One, I've not seen any evidence that people are going to be poorly trained to be ICE agents. They'll be recruited as they always have been and trained. Well, but you're talking about trained ICE agents.
They keep grabbing people.
I don't think wearing masks. I don't think the. Yeah, but my second point was we all know why they're wearing masks. It's because they're being doxxed left, right, and centre.
Other regular police who go into drug gang areas and deal with all kinds of criminals, they're not masked. So why are these clowns masked? This is a great point from Tim Miller, and it's ridiculous that Piers Morgan is defending the ICE agents being masked. And yes, to Piers Morgan's point, Tim Miller continually mentioning that Dean Cain was Superman and all of that is a little bit childish. I think it's funny. It is a little bit childish. But Dean Cain claims to be trained. And then when Tim Miller asks Dean Cain a direct question about the training, he says, Dean Cain says, I haven't gotten the training yet. So, this is going to be an ICE agent in name only. He's just going to be a quote unquote celebrity, as I said, to try to give ICE a little bit of legitimacy among the public. And Dean Cain is going to have the typical MAGA bravado with his dyed hair, and he's a tough guy, he's a John Wayne type, blah, blah, blah. But Tim Miller is exactly correct when he talks about how these guys are not properly trained. They're going after people who haven't committed any real crimes. We don't see any stories about ICE agents having shootouts with gang members or anything like that. It's always them just arresting grandmothers and single mothers and old people and just people just trying to work. And as Tim Miller said, with the immigrations issues. With the immigration issues, we have more people who just overstay their visa than people coming across the border illegally. We need a path to citizenship for people who have been here for 10, 20, 30 years, not committing crimes. And then we wouldn't have goofs like Dean Cain signing up to become an ICE agent because Dean Cain thinks he's a tough guy. There's more to this. You can watch it on the Bulwark's channel, or you can go to Piers Morgan's channel and watch even more. I wanted to share what I thought were really the key points. I think Tim Miller always does a great job on Piers Morgan show, and as is typically the case, he made mincemeat of another MAGA goon, this time Dean Cain. Let me know in the comments what you think about all of this. Did you side with Tim Miller here? Did you side with Dean Cain? Make sure to give me a like and subscribe. I'm Chris on Culture, and I will see you in the next video.